car crash cases, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts. The attorneys with Josh Wright from the law firm of Hollis Wright and host David Lamb.
Hello and welcome into the attorneys. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday evening. We've got a panel of experts ready to deal with a topic that we believe is pertinent and of interest to you. And the best way for this to work is for you to join the conversation all throughout the program. Ways you can call and join our conversation. The way to do that is at the bottom of the screen. Also, a reminder, one thing that Hollis Wright makes available for you for the entirety of this show. There are attorneys standing by right now to speak with you. So if you have a question that pops into your mind, pick up that phone, give them a call. Some free legal advice coming your way there. Carter Clay from the firm Hollis Wright leading our conversation. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, David. I hope you're doing well.
Doing well, thank you.
Holiday season is right here amongst us.
Is.
And what we're going to be talking about tonight are injuries and accidents that are particularly prevalent during the holiday seasons, whether it be Thanksgiving, Christmas, or New Year's, perhaps even the 4th of July. We typically see a spike in accidents, in particular automobile accidents, especially around the holiday season such as New Year's Eve. A lot of that is obviously attributed to people being out, going out to bars and restaurants, going over in individuals' houses where alcohol is served. And alcohol plays a big part in motor vehicle accidents around the holiday season. Obviously, the kids are home during the holiday season. They're getting toys from Santa and from other individuals and relatives providing them presents, and especially with young children, we have to be particularly cautious and careful to watch out for those little kids, especially if they're playing with small toys, small pieces, because we know that young children are apt to put items like that in their mouths. We've seen significant choking incidents and things like that. Poisoning is a big issue relative to children and those types of things. So we're just going to kind of cover the gamut here this evening, talking about particular accidents and injuries that occur during the holiday season. Good. And so we're very fortunate here tonight to have John Spade. He's a young attorney in our office, and he's been with us a year or so now. He's still young, but he's getting a lot of good experience, and I'm so proud to have you on the show, John, and more proud to have you at our office. You work extremely hard for the clients that we represent, and you're doing a great job, and you've got a bright future ahead of you. But thank you so much for being with us here this evening.
Well, thanks for having me, and of course, thanks for the gracious introduction there. I'm excited to talk about this topic today. I think it is extremely pertinent to the time of the year that we're in now, like Carter was saying. With kids and toys and potential choking hazards that they might pose. This topic is going to be real relevant as to kind of what's going on right now.
What types of toys, just to kind of put it out there, that should parents be watching out for relative to young children, Christmas presents, and things like that? What types of things have you seen in our practice or through your experience in that regard that they should watch out for?
Well, as you mentioned kind of in the lead-in there, anything that has kind of small pieces to the toy, whether that be like a Lego or actually the number one toy that ends or household item that causes choking and asphyxiation amongst children is latex balloons. That's the number one. So if there's a balloon that's either not inflated or that's been popped, be sure to pick that up immediately. Because little kids especially can get their hands on that, and it can pose a very serious choking hazard. As everybody kind of knows, children, around 3 years old and under tend to put everything in their mouth. So avoid buying, if you can, those toys that do have the small pieces. Try to stick to the toys that are one size. I know they make a number of toys out there that have different age restrictions on them. Try to adhere to those age restrictions and just be mindful when the kids are playing with the new Christmas presents, Christmas toys. To keep an eye out for any small pieces.
Yeah, and one of the things I would be particularly cautious about is what do we all do on Christmas Day? We sit around a big room, everybody's opening their toys, including small children, and they're playing with it throughout the day, and parents get distracted, they're doing other things, they're talking with other people. You take your eye off your child for just a minute, they put something in their mouth, can be a choking hazard for them.
Yeah, I wonder, we hear a lot about the expectations and kind of help for parents in terms of obligations and tips and hints. When it comes to the manufacturers, are any of that responsibility on their part or land in their lap in terms of things they can do to reduce choking hazards?
Well, absolutely, and I'll jump right in, John, and you can kind of supplement to this, but obviously anybody who manufactures any product, whether it be toys, automobiles, they have certain obligations to design the products or toys in a reasonable manner that is consistent with industry standards that are out there, and they have obligations to warn consumers about the dangers or hazards associated with the use of those products. Right. And so you have to kind of keep an eye on that. Read instructions, look at the warnings that come in the packages with those types of toys. But yeah, those are some of the obligations. And I would go ahead and mention that anybody out there who wants to do some research about a particular toy or item can go to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. That's the CPSC, which many of us are probably familiar with. Can go to the CPSC and look up certain toys that are out there that have had problems and look at the dangers or hazards associated with those.
I would kind of echo what Carter was saying. Pay attention to the manufacturer's warnings. They're there for a reason. They make these products. They know if they have toys that might become disconnected from the larger toy, and if it's a toy that's intended to be used by children 3 to 6 years old and has those small pieces, they're going to put a warning, or they should put a warning on the outside of the box or in the instructions on how to use and play with the toy, warning the parent of the potential choking hazard. So just heed those warnings. They're there for a reason.
Yeah. Are there any toys that do not have to meet some sort of size or requirements like that in order to be sold? Is there a loophole anywhere?
Well, I don't know that there's a loophole. There's not really any standards per se that are going to cover all toys.
Right.
Again, the default position is that the manufacturer or the designer has to be consistent with other manufacturers or industry standards for other manufacturers, and that's very important. So it's really just a reasonableness standard that applies to all of them.
You got to think about it. There's certain toys and items that for them to be able to be used for their intended use have to be smaller. A pen cap, for instance, has to be small to fit over the top of the pen. So there's certain items that can pose a choking hazard, can be dangerous, but the intended use would be completely thrown out the window if they made it so large that it would not be a choking hazard at all. So the manufacturer is weighing the intended use versus the hazard when they're making these products.
All right. Kind of pivoting just a little bit to car accidents. Holidays, really popular time to travel. Going to grandma's house or to visit family all around. In terms of protecting our children, what kind of advice or suggestions do you have to keep our families safe and to cut down on that potential injuries?
Dave, that's a great point. And you know what? Car crashes are the leading killer of children ages 1 to 12 years old. So it's very important that when we are transporting them to grandmother's house or to the mall to go get Christmas presents, to keep them safe. Right. And it's all about using the right car seat that's appropriate to their age and their weight limit. And then not only putting them in it, but using it as for its intended purpose and using the actual car seat and device itself correctly.
And infants up to 20 pounds have to be in a rear-facing backseat car seat.
Okay.
Once you get to 20 pounds, they can kind of turn you around and start to use the booster seat that's forward-facing. And then I believe it's 60 or 80 pounds, maybe closer to 80 pounds, that has to be the minimum weight for an individual child to sit in the front passenger seat, and that's really for protection against airbag deployment.
Right. It's time for us to take our first break of the evening, so let's step aside for a moment as we do so. A reminder, attorneys standing by live right now to speak with you. Take advantage of that opportunity. Also, you can find the firm of Hollis Wright. If you'll search Hollis Wright, you'll find them on Facebook. On Twitter, it's Hollis_Wright. So opportunities to keep up with Hollis Wright. Really informational, educational social media opportunities there for you. Stay tuned. More of the attorneys coming right up.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright, a personal injury law firm. Thank you for watching The Attorneys. Now, we hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple. Provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free, so if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury-related topics, You can call, email, or text us, or you can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or simply contact us by going to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us link. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us watching The Attorneys.
Welcome back into The Attorneys. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Trying to get you ready for the holidays and keep your family safe as you do so, to make this a happy holiday for each and every one of us. As we were heading to break, we were talking about child safety seats, but just one final question I've got about that. Any other tips in terms of what to actually look for in a seat? Because information is everywhere. That's kind of a problem with, kind of the downside of the internet is that, information is everywhere and you don't know who to trust and who's right. But in terms of how to pick and how to choose the right car seat and that sort of thing, any ideas, any help there?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, you can go to the Consumer Protection website and you can take a look at those at the CPSC. You can take a look at those types of websites. There are other governmental websites out there and other industry-wide websites that you can do research on relative to various types of car seats. But I would encourage the viewer, if you're in need of buying a car seat, number one, as John indicated earlier, make sure that the car seat is age appropriate and weight appropriate for your child.
Okay.
And number two, do some research on the internet or talk to other people who have had children and use car seats and find out about the highest quality of car seats that out there, because there are a lot of different manufacturers out there of car seats. Some are good, some are not so good, and obviously you want to buy the best within reason for the protection of your child who's going to be using it. There has been a lot of litigation over the years concerning defects in car seats for children relative to either the car seat coming out of the base or not providing enough protection or breaking down in certain types of collisions. So the type of car seat the manufacturer is very important.
All right. If we could shift gears just a bit, a question we've got here having to do with alcohol. I mean, that is something that there are many Christmas parties and all over the holidays. What is the law in the state of Alabama about serving or providing alcohol to customers? Talk to us about the legalities of such.
Well, when it comes to serving and providing alcohol in the state of Alabama, there's really two Alabama statutes that will apply. There's the Dram Shop Act and as well as the Civil Damages Act. And the Civil Damages Act kind of regulates what a bar, a restaurant, a convenience store, what they have to look at and check before they can sell somebody alcohol. It really pertains more to minors. They have to have a valid, state form of identification, passport, a military ID, something of that sort. And then there's a Dram Shop rule as well, and that applies to restaurants and bars not serving people that have become visibly intoxicated. And bars will train their employees, their bartenders, on how to spot the signs of visible intoxication. And the act kind of really comes into effect after a bar or restaurant serves somebody who is visibly intoxicated. They then leave the bar and cause an accident, and somebody else suffers injuries and damages.
Did you say the bar is the provider of the alcohol is required to train like bartenders in what to look for?
Oh, absolutely. Not only are they required to do it, they have to do so in a reasonable manner, which means they have to provide a certain level of training, not only about serving alcohol, the differences between serving wine, serving beer, serving hard liquor drinks. They have to have an understanding of the signs to look out for relative to the consumer of the alcohol, somebody who's drinking it. How many drinks should they be served based on their size, whether they're female, whether they're males, how much food that they've taken in. All of those types of factors go into whether or not an individual is going to become intoxicated. I mean, obviously people go to a bar, they want to have a drink or two, but you have to be very careful as the owner of a restaurant or bar and or a waiter or waitress in terms of not overserving your customer. Because if you overserve the customer and they become intoxicated and they leave your premises and they get behind the wheel of a car and they cause an accident and somebody gets injured or killed, obviously they can be held responsible as driving a vehicle while intoxicated, but so can a bar or restaurant be held responsible as well.
All right. Another question relative to alcohol and alcohol use and abuse. What law is it that protects us if a drunk driver hits us?
It's kind of a hybrid of the two. Of course, we were just discussing about Dram Shop, the Dram Shop Act, and how that can lead to potential liability against the person who furnishes or provides the alcohol. But then as to the drunk driver themselves, the general negligence standards we've talked on, on the show at length about will come into effect as to holding them liable and potentially getting to their automobile coverage, and if they don't have sufficient coverage, into your uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage.
The same law would apply to a drunk driver that would apply to somebody running a red light or running a stop sign. It's a reasonableness standard. Obviously, it's unreasonable to run a red light or a stop sign if you're supposed to stop.
Right.
It's just as unreasonable and even more unreasonable to drive an automobile while you're intoxicated. Now, if you're driving an automobile while intoxicated, that's likely going to give rise to potential punitive damages because of the egregious nature of the conduct. And so that's something to consider as well.
Another question we have here, if the drunk driver who caused my accident was a teenager, can I still file a claim?
Absolutely, you can. And in most cases, you'll be filing a claim against either the bar that served the minor the alcohol, or if it was, say, at a house party and somebody furnished alcohol knowing that the person was a minor, you'd be bringing an action against them under their homeowner's insurance policy. But just because they're a minor doesn't mean that you have no recourse whatsoever.
And you would also have recourse against the minor themselves. Now, typically what would happen is if you filed a lawsuit directly against the minor for having negligently caused the automobile accident and injuring you, typically what's going to happen is the court is going to appoint a guardian, what we call a guardian ad litem, or a guardian that kind of looks out for the interest of the minor. But you still have a claim against the minor, and if the minor lives at home with his parents, he probably should have automobile insurance on that vehicle that he was driving, and you can go after the insurance for the minor's vehicle.
If the minor used a fake ID, is the business off the hook?
Not necessarily.
Depends on the quality of the identification.
Really?
Probably so. I mean, they're going to look at that from a reasonableness standpoint.
Right.
Let's say, for instance, they manufactured the fake ID in the garage and it is a very poor quality that nobody would ever believe is legitimate ID. Then obviously I think the bar is going to be on the hook or have some problems. On the other hand, let's say it's an individual that's 19 or 20 and he's got an older brother that's 21 or 22 and they look a lot alike, and he takes his brother's identification. That could be a mitigating circumstance that would allow the bar to escape liability, but not if they got the minor intoxicated. The intoxication rules would still apply.
Yeah, all right. Time for us to step aside our final break of the evening. As we do so, a great time to remind you to join the conversation. Ways you see right there, you can contact us. Also, attorneys standing by live right now would love to speak with you. I'm sure some questions have been stirred as we've conversed tonight. Would love to hear from you. Stay tuned. We've got more of the attorneys coming right up.
I'm Carter Clay with the law firm of Hollis Wright. When you serve on a jury, you might expect to have all of the evidence presented to you during the course of a case. But there are some forms of evidence that are not allowed in court. In tonight's Legal 411, we are answering the question, why can't jurors see police incident reports? Most jurors would like to see crash reports during a trial, especially since these documents almost always show the investigating officer's opinion on who was at fault for the crash. Unfortunately, Alabama law prohibits the introduction of such reports into evidence. Alabama law states that no such accident report shall be used as evidence in any trial, civil or criminal, arising out of an accident. According to lawmakers who wrote and approved this rule, the reason accident reports cannot be admitted as evidence is that a jury might place too much weight on an official document such as a police report. There are some exceptions to this rule, of course, but most courts generally won't allow this type of evidence to be shown to a jury. Despite this rule, police officers who investigate crashes are still allowed to testify. They can tell a jury what they saw at the scene of the crash, including the road conditions and the positions of automobiles. An officer can also inform a jury of most any statement the people involved in the crash may have said to the officer during the investigation. The accident report can even be used to refresh an officer's memory of the crash. But the actual document itself cannot be introduced into evidence. And the officer's opinion of who is at fault is also excluded. That's because the jury is charged with deciding fault based on all the facts presented. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will always respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you.
Staying safe this holiday season, doing our best to help you do so that it's a happy holiday for all involved. Welcome back in to the attorneys, the final segment here, so the clock is ticking. If you would like to join the conversation, take advantage of the contact information you see there on your screen. Carter?
And John, we've been talking about the liability that bars and restaurants might have if they overserve an individual alcohol, and what we focused on to this point are the individuals who are not the ones intoxicated, that are innocent victims that are out there that get hit by an automobile driven by the intoxicated driver. Clearly, we've talked about the rights that they would have. But here's my question. Does the intoxicated driver, does he have a legal claim or any rights back against the bar or restaurant for over-serving him or her?
No, he does not. That's not to say, we've kind of touched on this earlier, that's not to say that the people who are affected by his decision to get into a car, his or her decision to get into a car, drive down the road, and subsequently cause an accident, the passenger of the vehicle might have a claim, the parents of the minor or of the affected person might have a claim as well. The Dram Shop Act kind of creates two avenues of potential claimants. One being the person who's injured by by their own person, bodily injury, by their property, they would have a claim, and then any person who's injured through a loss of support, that would be where the parents would come into play. Parents, children, those sort of people.
Now, I want to talk about an issue that I think is particularly important over the holiday season, David, and that is teenagers consuming alcohol, and in particular 16, 17, 18-year-olds consuming alcohol at the house of other parents or at their own house, right, where the parents know or should know of the consumption of alcohol. And John, talk a little bit about that area of law, and in particular about what would happen if a child gets injured or killed as a result of consuming alcohol at somebody else's house where the parents are present under those circumstances.
Absolutely. It's going to those cases are largely going to turn on whether the parent knew or should have known that a minor was going to consume alcohol, and whether or not that parent knew or should have known that the person who was consuming alcohol was in fact a minor. If they do, then there's certainly liability on the part of the homeowner and the person who's furnishing or providing the alcohol. A lot of misconceptions is whether or not the alcohol has to be sold to the individual, and that's just not true. If it's furnished or provided to a minor, even like at a house, like a Christmas holiday party, if somebody makes a drink for a 15-year-old kid, there can be liability. And a lot of times the way that the liability, what you'll go to kind of attack, I guess, if you're bringing a claim, would be the person's homeowner's insurance. That's where you'd file the claim against.
And not only can they be held civilly liable, and this is important, we've seen circumstances where the parents were actually arrested for allowing the party to go on where they knew alcohol was being served, and there are actually some criminal charges that can be brought against parents who have actual knowledge of that kind of activity going on in the house. So there's some real repercussions for that type of event.
All righty, a couple of questions I want to try to get to. Time is just flying. What role does the drunk driver's blood alcohol content play in these types of cases?
Well, it plays a huge role. To be able to bring these cause of action, you have to show that the driver was in fact intoxicated. There are, in that state of Alabama, anything below or above, a 0.08 is legally intoxicated. If it's a minor, anything above 0.02 is legally intoxicated. And if the driver holds a commercial driver's license, a truck driver, for instance, they have a 0.04. So it can be used as evidence to show intoxication, and really it's a very big bullet in the gun, if you will, to proving your case as to the intoxicated driver.
And having a blood alcohol content is not the only way to prove intoxication. You can prove intoxication through a breathalyzer test. You can prove intoxication through a field sobriety test. You can prove intoxication through the observations of witnesses, including the law enforcement personnel that pulled over the drunk driver. He was slurring his words. He had bloodshot eyes. He couldn't walk in a straight line. So there are all different types of evidence that we as lawyers can create and do create or develop through the course of a case like this in order to be able to introduce that evidence to a jury.
All right. Believe it or not, our time is pretty much done, but I want to give both of you the opportunity for a final thought, and John, we'll start with you.
I think, being in holiday season, just keep your wits about yourself. If you have small children and they're unwrapping their presents, keep an eye on them while they're playing with their toys. If you're hosting a holiday party, be smart. Have a sober ride option, whether that be taxi, Uber, Lyft, some of these ride-sharing platforms. But just think it through and kind of think through the consequences of what might happen if somebody is either driving under the influence or playing with a potential choking hazard.
And I would just caution everybody out there to make sure that when they're driving their children around who are going to be out of school, little children will be driving around with moms and dads going Christmas shopping. Just make sure that you've got a good car seat, make sure that you're using it, make sure that you're using it properly, and that the kids are all belted in appropriately, and you'll have a safe ride.
Yeah, the main thing is be smart, be cautious, pay attention so that everybody does arrive alive.
That pretty much applies to most aspects in life.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but often what's that on these? Oftentimes folks just make some foolish mistakes.
That's right.
And we all pay for it. Hey, gentlemen, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate you being with us. Appreciate you being with us tonight. Also appreciate you as well. Hey, just a reminder, there are attorneys standing by all throughout the program, and they're available for another few minutes. So if maybe you've missed the opportunity or you tried to call and that number was busy, give them another call. I know they've been inundated with a great number of calls, but now's a good time to give them another try. That number you see there on your screen, attorneys standing by live to speak with you, so take advantage of that. Also, ways you can find the firm on Facebook as well as Twitter. We appreciate the time and look for you next time right here on The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.